House Committee and VTC has been doing a study on how to revamp the college and get it back on solid footing. And this morning was their presentation to both committees. So sorry that we're a little late, but we'll work certainly to get you all in and through the process. I'd like to, I'm Bobby Starr and I chair the committee, and the full committee is here, so I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hi, Chris Pearson, Senator from the Chittenden District.
Brian Collmore from the Rutland District.
Corey Parent from Franklin County.
Yeah, and Anthony Polina, I don't know if he's having trouble with his voice or what, but Anthony Polina from Washington County is also a member of our committee. So this morning, we're going to take additional testimony in regards to S67. It's creating a right to repair agricultural equipment. And I've got a list of 5 people. I don't know if any of you have a particular time limit that you can be with us. And if you do, we'll try to get you in sooner, but Ward Butler is on the list at the top. And so if I haven't seen any hands up. So Ward, if you'd like to lead off and introduce yourself and
Yep.
who
How's
you
my audio?
represent.
Yep. Audio good?
Yeah, very good.
All right. Thank you, Senator Starr, for allowing us the opportunity to testify. My name is Ward Butler, and I'm the service manager for Milton Cat. And Milton Cat represents Caterpillar. We have several locations throughout New England and New York, local stores in Chittenden County in the town of Richmond. And we have anywhere from 40 to 45 employees, depending on the time of year. We did try to reach out to Senator Pearson, but we did not receive any calls back. We do have concerns about this bill. We live and work in Vermont. We strongly oppose the bill. We're most concerned with the safety, and that anyone can have access to embedded software codes. Currently, our customers have access through a diagnostic tool called Caterpillar ET. It gives them diagnostic codes and repair codes. It's available on a subscription basis, and it is updated routinely, annually, if not sooner, with technology and product updates. So we draw the line, however, at granting access beyond the firewall. We do not support anyone's right to access codes that allow tampering of codes that govern safety and emissions technology in the machines. The safety impacts are extremely serious. CAT machines are large and complicated, certainly dramatically different than small consumer electronics like a cell phone. So even a small amount of tampering, electronics or hydraulics in the machine could cause injury. Also, tampering with the engine can easily make the machine out of compliance with the EPA Clean Air Act. That liability concerns us, and the potential concerns would fall back on us, the dealer. We see this bill as the ability to grant access to anyone to tamper or alter the code. Future owners would have no idea that safety may have been compromised on their machines. They would have no idea that critical parts may have excessive wear because someone tried to make the machine do something beyond its safety or factory specifications. Milton Cat invests heavily in the industry. For example, our technicians receive on average 100 hours of training annually which translates into thousands of dollars. We also have a long-term relationship with VTC, offering apprenticeships and scholarships. And our equipment, we equip our techs with expensive technology and service trucks that are available, all hours of the day. To summarize, we see this bill is seeking to fix a problem that we don't see exists. We are extremely concerned about the safety and emissions compliance that these issues arise. So again, I say we oppose the bill, and I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Ward. Are there questions from committee members? Brian, Senator Collmore?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You mentioned subscription price, Ward. I'm just curious, how much does it cost to get that?
I believe the annual subscription is around $1,200.
And it's updated how often?
At least annually, if not more often, depends on the product requirements, updates that we have with our product.
Thank you.
Other questions, Senator Pearson?
Yeah, thank you for coming in, and I apologize for not calling back. Some don't realize it in our system. Once the bill is in, it's in. You sort of lose control of it. So I hoped we would be able to have this conversation here. I'm curious if somebody tampers with the emissions or with some of the safety requirements, that's not what the bill talks about. It talks about repair, not modification, right? So isn't that still today, or if we pass this bill, most of that's protected by federal law, is it not?
The EPA Clean Air Act, yeah, correct. Again, the concern would be what happens once this is, in someone's hands who's, seeking to do more than just repair, change the horsepower or something that affects the emission.
And what about the diagnostic tool is pricey, but admittedly available, but we're hearing a lot of the components after you replace maybe a filter or maybe something a little more intense than that, you have to be able to, as I understand it, communicate with the central computer of the machine. And is that something that consumers could get themselves, or is there also a subscription kind of model for that piece of it?
Into the embedded software, and yes, most emissions problems do require our services. However, part of the requirement is an extended warranty, and the emissions problems are covered for 5 years or 3,000 hours. But to answer your question, it would require us to be present.
Other questions? One issue that came up that when we very first took this bill up was that people would call for service, and the lag time between when they called and when the service truck got there was, there was quite a lot of time lost. And so the question I have is, what kind of a lag time do you have in general from when a customer calls and when they get the service?
Quite frankly, we haven't seen a lot of that. When we get the call, especially with the emissions, we're responding within a day or two, if not sooner. I have over 10 vehicles on the road ready to be dispatched on a daily basis, but quite frankly, we haven't seen it that long. We kind of pride ourselves on not allowing it to take that long.
Yeah. So it runs a day or so?
Yes, sir.
Because a lot of times, if you have a farmer and he's got hay down or crop down and, it can't sit there for 2 or 3 days, waiting for the service truck to come and so that was one issue that one farmer brought up in particular, was the lag time. Any other questions from committee? If not, thank you, Ward, for your time, and you're welcome to stay with us if you have the time. The next person I have on the list is Glenn Scott.
Hi, yep, you've got me.
Yeah.
Hi,
Morning.
Thank you, Senator, for the time. I also work for Milton Caterpillar, and I'm in the sales side of the business, and represent Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. And just to echo what Ward said, he put it in a nutshell, but our biggest concern here is the safety of the consumer at this point, because these temperatures inside the Tier 4 final run when they're regenning around 1,000 degrees. And so we're talking about something that's very, very serious. Some of the hydraulic pressures inside the engine are over 30,000 PSI. So our technicians are not even allowed to work on these machines until they've gone through an extensive training program. Ward doesn't let any of his technicians just jump on a machine and start working on it. They have to go through and meet certain criteria and get to a level where we feel comfortable that they're not going to hurt themselves or anyone else. So I guess what I wanted to just make sure is that the committee understands we put a lot of money and effort and training into our technicians so they're safe and the customer's safe. And so the thought of giving that ability to somebody that maybe have watched a YouTube video or gotten some type of information somewhere, that's a very serious thing for us. We really, again, don't want to see anybody get hurt and don't want to see anybody have any increased liability. So that's really all I had. I just want to echo what the board said on the safety side of it.
Yeah. Any questions for Glenn, Senator Collmore?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Glenn, since you're on the sales side and I worked for 45 years selling radio ads, so I'm kind of in a similar situation.
Right.
When somebody
Does your
comes in,
radio ads purr like a cat?
I'm curious when there's a customer in the showroom and they're, getting ready to sign a deal, how many of them take advantage of that subscription? And what's your sort of take on whether they see this as a problem that they can't sort of repair their own machinery? I'm probably not phrasing that in a totally objective way.
No, I understand. We see certainly the larger fleets take advantage of the electronic subscription because they have large fleets to manage. So we do. Ward can talk to that as well. We see that quite a bit. But to be honest with you, really what we find on our side of the business is there's a switch happening. Customers really don't want to work on their things anymore. They, much like I don't work on my pickup truck that I drive. I take it to the dealer and I have them do their stuff, and I think that the age of that is happening more and more. And in the construction side, we actually even sell packages where a customer can either do all his own work or he can have us do everything, even changing the oil. I mean, we have these agreements where we will take care of your machine from head to toe. We'll change the oil, we'll service it when it's down, we'll do everything you need to do and provide a rental when the machine is being worked on. So we really can encompass a whole different aspect of it that maybe a lot of people don't know. So I know that's a long answer to your question, but really there's different buckets that each customer fits into.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else for Glenn right now from the committee? If not, thanks, Glenn. And if you hang around and if you think of something else or a question comes up, just raise your hand like I'm doing, and we'll get you back on. Michael, is Michael with us?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
there you are. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Senators. Thank you very much for your time today. My name is Michael McKenna. I'm the Director of Aftermarket for United Ag and Turf in the Northeast. We are a 28 location John Deere dealer. We do have 4 locations in Vermont with Rutland, Middlebury, Heartland, and South Royalton. We have spoken many times in many different states in regards to this, and we are ultimately opposed to this legislation. We believe it is simply unnecessary. We have always and will continue to support our customers' right to repair their equipment. We do not support the right or the ability to modify their equipment. Parts, technical manuals, workshop manuals, diagnostic information, diagnostic software are all available to end users to work on their own equipment without needing access to any of the proprietary software systems, which this bill and many of the others that we've dealt with inadvertently allow. On the John Deere side, less than 2% of John Deere repairs actually require reprogramming of software. In regards to some of the questions that were actually already posed, and Glenn and Ward did an amazing job and had great information, but the software that's already available to consumers does allow recalibration, the help with the installations of parts, everything that's needed for the majority of consumer-based repairs, period. Reprogramming of the actual encoded software is limited to dealers, and very specifically because if consumers could modify their software, whether they mean to or not, they could potentially modify safety systems as well as emissions features and not even be aware of it. Safety could result in injury, could result in death, damage to property, damage to the equipment itself. And it's silly things like bypassing an operator presence switch in a seat. They may not realize that they've done it, and that could cause significant issues down the road. Bypassing emission systems could quite literally send a piece of equipment back more than 20 years in terms of environmental damage and pollutants. And that's part of the reason that we are opposed to this. We've been always strong advocates of a consumer's right to repair, just not the right to modify.
So you do, like, you're in John Deere, right?
Yes.
And if you buy a John Deere a certain program, you can rent or buy a program to do some things, did you say?
Yes, absolutely. The program actually lines up almost 100% with what we as dealers have available. There's a few things that are not available to the consumer, and it basically boils down to a literal modification of the base software within the systems.
Yeah.
But recalibration, which is indeed needed for some components, especially on the emission side, when you put, if you had to put new filters in for some of the diesel emissions, that does have to be recalibrated to machine. That is available in the consumer-based subscription versions.
Yeah. Are there questions from committee? Senator Pearson?
Thanks. Sorry, I had to hop off there. Ironically, I'm getting my car repaired. Not at the dealer, by the way.
Out in your
had to-
dooryard?
Had to
You
talk
doing
to
it
the
out?
local mechanic down the road to see if he could sell me on a new oil pan. So you've all made it clear you're against modification.
Yes.
That's not contemplated in this bill, basically covered by federal law. You've also basically said this bill's not necessary. So then what's the harm of having this bill? If you're saying your consumers can do most of what they want to do already, that's what this bill's trying to do, is say, hey, I own this tractor, I can fix my tractor, I can bring it to a repair person that I trust. But you're sort of saying that they can do that, but you oppose the bill. I don't understand. Those can't both be true. If they can already do it, then this bill's not going to have much impact.
Does this bill speak to embedded code or other essential trade secrets, if you will, for the software?
No.
So the program that John Deere has, your mechanic down the street, Senator Pearson, could buy, or the owner of the equipment could buy through John Deere. But why couldn't they fix the whatever anyways then?
Well, that's what we're trying to uncover. The folks that we're talking to say they can't. The dealers and the repair folks say they can. So there is some kind of a disconnect here. The fact that this bill is being debated, some version of this bill is being debated around the world, would suggest there's more than just a few of us that are idly curious about it. So I own a farm. I'll be the first to say I don't have a lot of firsthand experience. I do own a car. I do own several cars. I do think there's a lot of parallels when you talk about the safety factors, the pollution factors, the regulators, the ability to mess with software. All of that is equally, if not more, applicable to cars, because there's millions and millions of cars hurtling down the road, putting the broad public in danger in a way that most farm equipment is not. And we have satisfactorily said, it's my car, I have the right to repair it, or I have the right to bring it to whomever I wish to bring to repair. And yet when we talk about a lot of other equipment, we don't make that same principle. That's what gets at me, and I struggle to make peace with that. But
So
Michael?
yes, so ultimately the reason that we remain opposed to this bill and believe it's unnecessary is because we already have everything out there. It's just an unnecessary law because we want this to exist. We want consumers to do this, to be able to repair their equipment. We've got education that definitely needs to take place because there is a disconnect at some point with what people believe is available. You absolutely have some folk that are taking their 40 or 50-year-old piece of equipment where it was mechanical, there were no emissions, there was no safety features, and they can easily fix that because it was a very simple repair. In order to be safe and be emissions compliant, there's a lot more that go into it. And that's why these systems, which are far more complex, require these additional tools. And that's absolutely an education point of view to our customers. That being said, to your point about your right to repair your car, you have speed limits on the road that you have to follow. Your car has certain things that it can and cannot do. Tractors, if you have the ability to reprogram, which I believe the bill actually does state reprogram, which is ultimately allowing changes to the embedded code, you could remove the speed controls in a system that would allow a huge tractor with a massive load that is driving down the road, from one farm piece to another to go faster than it should, to not be able to stop properly at an intersection. There's a lot of things that could happen that potentially cause issues, not just to the operators and to the equipment, but to innocent bypassers or other people traveling on the road. So there are safety concerns above and beyond just an individual on their farm.
Other questions for Michael? Not at this time. If not, thank you, Michael, and hope you can stay on. We got a couple more witnesses, at least one.
Thank you.
Gay Gordon, are you on or?
Yes, Senator, I'm on and I'm starting my video, so
Oh,
hopefully.
there you are.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
thank you.
great. I'm
Welcome.
good to see all of you again. I wish I was there. It would be really lot more fun to be in Montpelier.
Well, we aren't in Montpelier. I wish we were there too. We're
Okay.
all in our homes Zooming.
Oh, I know. It's good on the mileage and the dry cleaning bills, but other than that, it's difficult. Anyway,
Yes.
yeah, just so everybody knows, my name is Gay Gordon Byrne. I'm the executive director of the Repair Association. We are the group that is behind bills that are currently in 26 states, Vermont being one of those. And there's over 40 bills of various kinds, a number of which are specific to agriculture, just like yours. I can give you a quick update. Vermont is far from alone on this bill. We have already seen bills in other states that have moved through the Agriculture Committee and are headed to the floor. In Florida, if you think about how interesting it is that Vermont and Florida are both looking at the same bill, and they're very different states, and they're very different. You know, it's a Republican legislature in Florida and a Democrat legislature in Vermont. These things are meaningless on these bills. So Florida has moved their bill out of committee. Delaware, Missouri just advanced their bill. I think it was Tuesday. So things are moving, and these bills are not being stopped by the litany of safety concerns that you've just heard. What is really happening out there is that John Deere and Caterpillar and a number of members of the Association of Equipment Manufacturers made a promise back in 2018 that they were going to be repair friendly by January 1. And a lot of organizations, particularly in the Farm Bureau side, decided they would wait and see. And then January comes and nothing changed. And the reason nothing changed is that the sincerity of the manufacturers in terms of what they intended to provide to their customers is not what the customers expected. So probably the words that you should that picked up my hearing were words like most, less than 2%, majority, almost. These are all qualifications that say the farmer can't fix all of their stuff. And they've put limits out there and they call them modification, but really that's not what's going on at all. The farmer needs to be able to get the authentic firmware from the manufacturer and have it applied to their machine. They don't need to modify anything. They just need to be able to get it. And that's where these things are falling apart, because manufacturers like Deere and like Cat and like a number of other manufacturers have said, we're not going to provide that. We're going to draw the line. And that's why you're hearing these words that are very equivocal that say almost. Well, the farmer paid 100%. The farmer owns the machine 100%. They are responsible for their own safety 100%. If they can't fix their stuff because the manufacturer has decreed that they can't do this or that, they still can't fix their stuff. They are still dependent on the dealership. Not that the dealership is a bad guy, but they can't go around the dealership. They can't support themselves. They are totally, basically married to that brand and married to the dealership without the benefit of, let's call it a prenup. So they're stuck. And the only thing this bill does is it erases that marriage. It says, you can do everything you currently do, Mr. Dealer. You can provide the best service in the world, but you can't be the only source. That's what this bill does. There's nothing in the bill that says anything about trade secrets. In fact, trade secrets are specifically exempted because, frankly, nobody needs them. There's nothing that a manufacturer would call a trade secret that would even be in service documentation, because it would never be a secret if it's already distributed. Same thing with cybersecurity, same thing with, yeah, these things are big and heavy, but it's the computer that needs to be fixed. And I'm from the computer world, and I can tell you fixing computers isn't based on size, cost, or complexity. You basically have to get the tools from the manufacturer. You've got to get the diagnostics from the manufacturer. In most cases, you have to get the parts from the manufacturer. So everything that the manufacturer is providing is exactly what they've already provided. So there's no patent infringement, there's no copyright infringement, there's no trade secret infringement. All there is the end of that monopoly. So happy to answer questions. I'm pretty close to the bill. Definitely a resource if you care to use it.
Questions from committee? Ward or Michael, do you have any questions on, well, we have Senator Pearson with a question.
Well, go ahead and see if the other guests have questions.
No, Michael? No? Do you have any question? No?
No, not at this time.
Yeah. Go ahead, Senator Pearson.
Thank you. Gay, thanks for joining us. So can you just sort of review, this is our job, is to take conflicting testimony and try to figure out, what's what. But there's the diagnostic piece. And we've heard consistently from all brands that those are available. People can buy them. Is it true that they can buy them? Are they readily available? Are they prohibitively expensive? What is your experience or your understanding?
Our experience is that when people call up to try to buy the tools, a lot of the dealers don't know that they have them available. That's definitely a communications problem. Either people are making announcements about stuff that exists and they don't communicate how to sell it to the dealership, or the dealership, that's really not what this bill is about. But yes, there's a variety of answers to that question, even within the same brand. What one person regards as prohibitive pricing is probably reasonable to somebody else. So the bill doesn't really say anything other than fair and reasonable, because that's going to vary obviously by product. It might be fair and reasonable to spend $1,000 a year on a tractor that costs, or a piece of equipment that costs $500,000, and completely unreasonable if that equipment costs $10,000. So that's also not in the bill.
And then
there was another point you asked, and I've already lost track. What was that again?
no, that's pretty good. And then the modification, I'd like your help understanding that, because I'm sort of appreciative that Ward sells me a piece of equipment, then I think I know what I'm doing. I inadvertently modify it, and then I bring it back to him, and he's got to clean up my mess. Right? That does happen in any number of things. I'm allowed to work on the plumbing in my house, but it's going to cost me more because I don't know what I'm doing, and then the plumber is going to come. Right? There is a safety impact because these are heavy pieces of equipment, but I don't think the bill deals with that. As I understand it, the safety issues and the emission issues it's illegal to modify those based on EPA and others. But can you just help us understand, that's been presented as a pretty clear drawback here. And what's your take?
My take is that when you're the owner, you are legally responsible. And if you look at the contracts that you sign when you buy a big piece of equipment, it says very, very clearly that I, John Deere or Caterpillar, or name a brand, am not responsible. There's a huge amount of legal disclaimers that go into these documents because the manufacturer does not want to be responsible for your messes. Now, when you mess up your own plumbing and you call the plumber, you pay the plumber. If you mess up your own tractor and you call the dealer, you have to pay the dealer. These warranties are actually very short unless somebody pays for an extended warranty, which is not a requirement. So yeah, it's a revenue opportunity for the dealer for you to mess up your own stuff. You are responsible quite literally for all your own accidents. You are responsible for liability. You are responsible for any of the speed limits that might exist on local roads. All of these responsibilities belong to the farmer, and they don't belong to the dealer. And they definitely don't belong to the OEM. So even on the emissions side, which is really not part of this bill at all, because hacking off your emissions is illegal. Farmers do get fined if they're out of compliance. Dealers get fined if they help people hack the software. And OEMs get fined if they fail to deliver a product that includes Tier 4. But it doesn't make the dealer the EPA police. So farmers are doing this. Frankly, they're doing it quite a lot because it's very expensive. But that's not what this bill does. This bill has nothing to do with emissions, and it has nothing to do with modding any software, because that's also copyright law. the Copyright Office told farmers starting in 2015 that they can mod, chip, hack, they can do whatever they want to the software on their tractors, so long as they stay legal. This has been copyright law since 2015. So this bill doesn't touch it because it isn't something the state can do. You've got to keep with what copyright law allows, what the EPA allows, what any other regulations allow. Your speed limits are still speed limits. There's nothing that changes, if that helps.
You mentioned other states are looking at this, and one of the impossible things to understand is the impact on our economy. I mean, I believe Ward works hard, and I hope he earns a decent living. And I don't mean to casually threaten their business, not in the slightest. I also think there are other people who could start a business or grow a business if there was a little more access. And this is a tension point. Do we have any way of knowing that, or has that been part of the discussion in other states that you've been a part of?
Well, farmers in other states have been very clear that every delay that they have on repair costs them a fortune.
Right.
And because everybody is generally trying, maybe not so much in Vermont, which is, as far as I can tell, mostly dairy, but in areas where everybody's out planting and harvesting at the same time, these delays become literally their business. Their business dies if they can't get their stuff fixed in a timely manner. So there's huge consequences for the farmer. Dealers generally don't have enough staff to cover every requirement at peak times because they can't afford to staff for peak times. They have to staff for routine business. Having the farmers be able to be a little bit more self-reliant is definitely an opportunity for employment at the direction of the farmer. I mean, a lot of these farmers are very sophisticated. They have staff, they have techs. Some of them have kids that are pretty tech savvy. These people are the ones that can come into the future and help grow agriculture as a business. It's been our experience with the automotive right to repair as well, that although there was a lot of fear and doom and gloom and, oh my God, dealerships are gonna die and we're gonna lose all these jobs, it didn't happen. People like you, people like me, I make the decision depending on what's going on with my car, whether or not I want to take it to the dealership or whether or not I think that Randy down at my local mechanic would be a better choice of service. So I think most people do understand the difference between the dealership, which has a huge marketing advantage, and an independent repair, and they're quite able to do that for most of their other purchases. For some reason, I was astonished to hear somebody say that people don't want to fix their stuff anymore. I'm like, that is definitely not the message I'm hearing. I'm hearing people are desperate to fix it. And it's not just farm equipment. They're desperate to fix their TVs and their washing machines and their cell phones too.
Yeah. Right. Super. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions for Gay? The only thing I would say, Gay, is I've been was in the trucking business my entire adult life until I got smart and retired. But back in the 60s and 70s and 80s and way up until recently, you could train yourself to work on those engines and transmissions. A decent mechanic could do it. But my son and grandson are in that business now, of course, with up-to-date new trucks. And hell, you open that hood and I mean, you don't know where to begin because it's so packed full of computer boxes and wiring. And I mean, I can't imagine a farmer. I mean, if you had a big operation where you could have a full-time mechanic, yes, they could go to school and get trained, but a typical regular farmer with, a hired hand or two, I mean, I would think they would want to call Milton Cat if they had a Cat, or John Deere if they had a John Deere. I mean, their trucks, they buy extended warranty, and when that truck gets to 400,000 miles, it goes to some lucky owner, and a new one takes its place because of, all the things that can go wrong on the boys' trucks. But anyway, just a quick note.
It's funny that you
How
mentioned trucks because,
Things have really changed.
well, it's not so much as they've changed, but you might be interested to know that Cummins, who provides engines for a lot of trucks as well as agricultural equipment, makes all of their software readily available without having to jump through any hoops for trucks and for off-road versions. So there's definitely a disconnect between what you can do particularly as a fleet owner in a truck. And there is a agreement. It's the extension of the automotive right to repair agreement. It was done by the commercial vehicle group in 2015. So the information to fix a truck is out there in the same manner that you can use an independent mechanic for a car. So I agree. It's probably, I wouldn't try to fix it, but other people do. Seriously, other people do. And it's the option that has been missing in agriculture, and we just need to restore the option.
There any other questions for Gay?
I see Michael has been waiting.
Well, I didn't have as much.
He put his yellow hand up. I don't see those. Go ahead, Michael.
I didn't have as much of a question as just some comments in regards to some of what Gay said, and ultimately, I think that Ward and Glenn would also agree. Is yes, at the dealership level, we struggle to get capacity for our technicians, and it's not from lack of desire and not from lack of resources. It's a massive industry, and there's a massive amount of competition, and we spend a huge amount of money and resources to try to get technicians from anywhere that we possibly can. We put them through school. We have tuition reimbursement programs for school. You're from Vermont. I'm sure you've heard of, Cobleskill, Southern University of New York, Cobleskill. We have a lot of people that go through that program. We have a lot of students in our shops. As far as people using the John Deere programs that are not employees, I have one individual out of Connecticut. His name's Charles. He went to Cobleskill. He worked at one of our dealerships. He went out on his own. He purchases the subscription for the program. He has the ability to go out and do everything he needs to. Not having that additional access to the exact same software the dealer has, which I'm trying to remember everything that the bill said, and I apologize that I didn't remember it off the top of my head, but it says, I believe the bill says same access to software as the dealer. That gives anybody the access to flash or reprogram, which is where the issues come into with safety and with emissions modifications. This particular technician, on the road technician, Charles, down in Connecticut, has the consumer-based software and has no issue fixing, has not had any issues fixing anything. He buys a huge amount of parts from our store in Canaan, Connecticut, and he's out there doing it all the time. We do not have complaints or issues. He's just doing it. To speak to this bill in other states and in other chambers, I believe this bill has been, or a variation of this bill has been up about 100 times in 40 or so given states. I do not believe it is passed in any of them at this time.
No, it hasn't.
Manufacturers are providing this. And yes, there's education that needs to take place, both from the consumer and from the dealership levels. I don't think anybody would argue with that. We're just arguing with that ability to modify the equipment and to cause damage and issues, period.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. I'm wondering, Gail, is Keith Gray, is he on the line or showed up?
He was on, and then it looks like he's dropped. I know that he had a doctor's appointment, so I'm not sure if he'll be rejoining us.
Yeah. Are there other questions from the committee members? No. Gail, did you have anything else to present to the committee? Gay?
Oh, yeah, I didn't know if there was someone else on. I sent over,
Keith couldn't make it or something.
okay. I sent some materials up to Linda last night that hopefully she's been able to circulate. One of them is a description of the gory details of just what they're talking about for the payload files, otherwise known as flash files. I think what it really comes down to in all cases is who owns the equipment. If the farmer owns the equipment, all of these issues are essentially none of the business of the dealer. The farmer can make their own mistakes. They can drive their tractor off a cliff. They might actually exceed the speed limit on a local road, but these are not problems that hurt the dealer. They don't hurt the OEM, they hurt the farmer. So I think we have to take the position that the farmer is in control of their equipment and that there's no good reason that he shouldn't be in control of the equipment, even if we assume that farmers are dumb, which is a terrible assumption. And I think it's very insulting to have the dealers say, well, you can't possibly fix that stuff because you haven't gone to school, when the schools aren't turning out candidates because there's no employment. It's the whole training thing is a definite problem. And I would think that places like SUNY Copelesville and maybe in Vermont, if there is the opportunity to get more training, that those would be the places that you should be investing in terms of helping agriculture.
Thank you. So anything else from the committee? Any other questions for our witnesses that we have on? If not, want to thank you all and Ward and Michael and Gay. Yeah, I don't know if we'll have another hearing. You know, we have requests come in, of course, for people that want to be heard. Keith Gray we still haven't gotten him in yet, but maybe he'll come back later this morning and punch in. But we'll end this portion of our meeting, and again, thanks a lot for being with us.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
So committee, it's amazing. VTC's looking for students, and one of I don't know if it's John Deere or Cat has a program set up to help. I thought they said with VTC to train these guys. Well, how much work have they been doing getting them trained?
You're in a
Doesn't-
good mood today, Mr. Chair.
Well, they got that started this morning with their problems that, you know, we don't give them any money and the cows don't make any money. Kids are overpaid. But anyways, the meat cutting program, how much we put 300,000 in there for that, and
I thought it was 500, maybe not.
well, yeah, but 500 and all, but 300 for one thing and 2 for the other.
Okay.
And 325 or 315, the early bill.
Yeah. That's coming back, by the way, on the floor today. And I had another totally unrelated question that was asked of me. And that's in a probe still, Bobby, right? Or is it on the floor?
No, it's got to be, it's supposedly going to the floor. They worked out any little changes between the House approach and our approach got worked out so that we're good to go.
So my question was, I think it's section 14. allows the, I think it's the health department, to keep track of personal medical information. And the question was raised if there's a passport, a vaccination passport, could that possibly be part of that? And I said I did not know the answer to it. In other words, that somebody could require people to get vaccinated and have some sort of passport that shows that they have been vaccinated.
What bill is this?
Is it 315? It's on the floor today. H 315.
It's the budget bill. You know, the early budget bill. In certain categories, the employer can require the employee to be vaccinated. As far as in the healthcare business, as far as whether they're going to get like a passport card showing that, I don't know, but they'd have to have some form of ID showing that they had been vaccinated.
Okay.
You know, you guys have been vaccinated, not Corey yet, I guess. Well, you got a little card about 3 inches by 3.5.
It shows
Well,
the 2 dates, but I don't carry it with me. I mean,
You don't?
no.
Well, by God, I've got mine with me. I mean, you're gonna get asked sooner or later, you know, have you been vaccinated? But I took mine. It's a screwed up size. So you have to cut it down the best you can without getting into the language. And then laminate it really tight, and it will fit in your wallet. But I did mine and carry it with me because I'm sure getting to the border, once they open that, they're gonna say, well, where's your card?
Really?
Mr.
Gail?
Chair, since the committee is just chatting, I'm going to take us off the live YouTube.
Oh, okay.